What is going on, everybody? Enzo here, and it's been a while since I've done one of these kinds of videos. So for a lot of like the newer subscribers who just recently subscribed to this channel, you guys mostly know this as a channel where I pull up some lore topics for Final Fantasy X and other games as well, as you guys can see from time to time, and just sort of talk about them, recount them, etc. It's not too often that I'll do videos like these where it's sort of just me in front of a camera just discussing like various topics, and a lot of it really is because I tend to talk a lot when it comes to these kinds of videos. But the reason why, which is actually the reason why I mostly do lore videos, because I can be concise, I can stay on topic, and I do write my own script. So it's like I make sure I stay on topic. Could be a reason why they're a bit more on the shorter end, which honestly I don't mind, because my voice just I do run out of breath sometimes when I do those kinds of videos. So I started doing these posts where I would just ask random questions to the Reddit community just to get their thoughts, and I figured why not turn these into videos as well, where we sort of just look at some of these comments and also get some of your guys' story as to your thoughts on the question at hand. So this one, we're gonna talk about how you discovered Final Fantasy X. As you can see there, I sort of shared a little bit about how I discovered Final Fantasy X. So just to kind of recap on the poster already, I first moved to Canada back in 2005, so that's like 18 years ago now. It's like, whoa, it's been a while. I've been here for a little too long in my opinion, but it's all good. Yeah, so shortly after I moved to Canada, I saw my cousin playing Final Fantasy X. Now, what I'm gonna share, which is not on the post actually, is what moment he was on the first time I saw him play. I remember it clearly being the Seymour Natus fight, because I recalled my cousin and his friend talking about attack battle patterns, magic battle patterns, I should say. They were talking about fire, water, lightning, and ice. And I'm like, oh, so looking back at it now, I realized that they were fighting Seymour, which at the time I didn't know who he was. I just saw him and I thought it was really cool. The music that played at the time was also really cool, because it's the boss battle fight, because this was Seymour Natus. Now, the reason why I knew it was Seymour Natus, well, I didn't know at the time it was Seymour Natus, but now looking back at it, it was definitely Seymour Natus, was because if it was regular Seymour, well, Seymour Natus looked more like a monster, and I definitely remembered them fighting a monster. I also remembered the setting behind them, like being the Hall of Bevel, like sort of that main like hall area. If it was, and Seymour Flux doesn't use magical patterns. If it was Seymour Omnis, I would have thought it looked cooler, just because he took more of a spectral, ethereal form at the time when he was inside Sin. So if it was Seymour Omnis, then I would have remembered that setting more, but I definitely remembered the setting being in Bevel, so it was definitely Seymour Natus. And then since then, I had borrowed Final Fantasy X because I wanted to play it, and up to this day, I've never returned it. Like, I still have it. I'm pretty sure it's in my storage somewhere, and I still have the original PS2 game. I mean, he was probably mad at me that I never returned it at the time, but I think, like, looking back at it, he doesn't really play video games that much anymore. I don't think he's too mad that I still have it, but yeah, so that's how I discovered Final Fantasy X. If some of you guys want to share your stories on how you discovered it, feel free to comment it down below. And also, I do want to make a few announcements before I continue on. I will be streaming Final Fantasy XII on Sunday, so back at the 9 a.m. PST scheduling, over on Twitch. So if you guys want to go follow me on Twitch, so you guys can come hang out, ask some questions, you know, feel free, let's just chat and hang out. And yeah, so, and also the shorts on TikTok and YouTube as well, if you guys want to be sure to keep up on those. If you guys want to watch more of the short lore versions of like the lore topics that I'll be covering, a lot of the topics I cover with the shorts are covered like in long form. Some I haven't even done the long form of yet, just because I find shorts editing to be a lot easier in my opinion. As you guys can tell, with F2, I don't use F2 Worlds on Reddit, I go by Enzo Plays. So if you guys want to follow me there as well, that'd be pretty cool. And honestly, some of you guys might be the ones that commented here on Reddit. If you are, definitely let me know. And don't get mad at me if I miss your guys' comments, just because there's so many and I don't think I plan on going through all of them. But yeah, let's go see what some of the stories that you guys have for how you discovered Final Fantasy X. So I thought this one was pretty cool. The official PlayStation magazine made sure to publicize it quite beforehand. Final Fantasy VI for PS1 came with the 10 demo disc, so that was my first contact with the gameplay. Honestly, I remember some of those games coming with like demo discs for like future games. Like for example, I never played the demo for Final Fantasy X. I kind of just got the full game after I saw my cousin playing it. But I did play the demo for Final Fantasy 12 when I got Dragon Quest 8. So if you guys played the Dragon Quest 8 on the PS2, which by the way is a great game, if you guys have a chance to play it, definitely go play it. I enjoy Dragon Quest 8. It is like, I'm proud to say that Dragon Quest 8 is like the first ever PlayStation 2 game I played without borrowing it from anybody. It's something I discovered like on my own. But it came with a Final Fantasy 12 demo disc, and when I played it, I was also really enticed with wanting to play Final Fantasy 12. So when the game came out fully, I immediately bought it. And I'll be honest, like to relatively unpopular opinion, Final Fantasy 12 is my favorite Final Fantasy game of all time. Again, as someone who hasn't really played much of Final Fantasy 9 below, like I'm part of the 10 and later sort of era of Final Fantasy in terms of like how much I played it. But Final Fantasy 12 is my absolute favorite, and I will say I was just as hyped when Zodiac Age came out as much as when the HD remaster for 10 came out. So I will always enjoy Final Fantasy 12, and it's kind of one of the reasons why I'm playing it too. I'm playing it on stream this weekend as well, because I do definitely have to get on it at some point. I think 10 and 10-2 are the only games I finished on stream so far. But hey, it's finished, so why not? My brothers played it. I could only watch since they had the monopoly of the PS2. Honestly, that's also me. Like, I have 2 younger siblings, and I'm pretty sure part of the reason why they're not as big gamers as I am was because I'd always monopolize the PS2. Same thing with the PS3. I'd kind of just play a lot of it, and I'd just sort of give them the hand-me-down. I mean, hey, they got the consoles for free. I had to pay. Well, my parents paid. Until the PS5. The PS5, I paid for it on my own, and I'm proud to say that. But PS4, PS3, I definitely monopolized it, and, you know, it kind of got to the point where, like, as they grew up, they kind of didn't game as much as I did. So I guess in a way it worked to my favor because now I can game a lot more. Well, my sister and brother have their own PCs, so they've been playing like PC games lately. But for me, I'm still on the single player RPG genre of gaming. That's like sort of my favorite. But yeah, I definitely can relate to the monopolizing of the PS2. Yeah, so you guys can see the reason why I don't really do these kinds of videos is because I will babble on like a lot, and I mean I will cut some of them out, but like, you know, I kind of don't want to at the same time just because it goes with like the flow of the conversation. Bought the game for the PS2 in the used game store at the time I was 12 years old, and still Final Fantasy X became my favorite game. You know what? That's fair. Like, it revolutionized, like, it took advantage of the performances of the PlayStation 2, which is a massive difference in terms of hardware capabilities compared to the PlayStation 1. So, you know, I can see why like that turn of the tide kind of like, it was definitely on the way of like going from the 2D era into the 3D era, which honestly is a really good era for video games. So I can see why like Final Fantasy X is like a really good turnaround for that point. And used game stores, oh man, like here we had Willow Video Games, which I think is still out, but you know, now with like the new way of renting video games, etc., like they kind of outdated, but I still miss going to like Willow Video Games and like looking for games to rent for like a few days. Even Blockbuster as well. My babysitter back in 03 was an old school nerd, and he played this in Ultima Online. You know what? That's pretty cool. If you guys discover some games because your babysitter played them, that's honestly really cool. Like for me, I've had babysitters when I was young, and I only had babysitters when I was in the Philippines, so they weren't really, not really had much accessibility to gaming. But like here, I could imagine like being as a babysitter after you finished, you know, doing chores, then you could just like boot up a video game or two and while waiting for the parents to come back. Honestly, it's like a pretty good pastime once you've done everything you need to do. And if the child gets hooked into the game, I should say, it's a big bonus, you know? Props to that babysitter. Okay, so here's an interesting one. It's actually a bit of a longer one, but I kind of want to go through it as well. I was already a fan of Final Fantasy X by that time. My anticipation for 10 was unlike any other game I've ever played. I remember snatching up magazines and poring over them for details. Oh, holy crap. The strategy guide came out first, so I bought that. Wow, you bought the strategy guide before getting the game? That takes commitment. Normally, I wouldn't look at a strategy guide unless I absolutely needed it. Then the game came out and bought that, but didn't even own a PS2 yet. Now that is true commitment right there. That's amazing. I held that thing like it was a sacred text, just having it made me happy. Then finally got a PS2. Sadly, the story, as I loaned out my copy to a buddy of mine because I wanted him to enjoy it too. His brother ended up scratching the disc badly, and he tried to fix it with the toothpaste hack. Word of advice, it's not a hack towards fixing anything. My disc was ruined beyond repair 20 years later, and I still kind of upset about it. I don't think I've ever used a toothpaste hack. I think I've tried I just tried rubbing it with like clear cloth and like water. I think that's really all I tried to clean those discs. Honestly, it didn't really work, to be honest. Like, they say that it works, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really work. But yeah, no, I definitely know the feeling of like scratched discs for sure. Like you just drop it on the ground accidentally and it's like, oh, it suddenly becomes like unplayable or something. But yeah, sometimes even just dust from the air is like, that's how sensitive the CDs really were back then. But it was really nuts. But hey, props for commitment for getting the game before even getting a PS2. Like that is amazing. Like I don't really have a lot of friends that play Final Fantasy X, or maybe 2 people I know in my friend group have played Final Fantasy, but in terms of like all my gaming friends, I'm definitely the only one that's like big into Final Fantasy these days. So I'm a little bit of a loner in that boat, but hey, I'm glad I got you guys. I was living in Japan and bought the international version just to hear a few more English speakers. Made me less homesick. Whenever I'd feel culture shock setting in, I'd just drop a couple hours of fighting fiends and fake laughing. Really made an impact on me. You know what? I kind of want to try playing like not just Final Fantasy, but like other games as well in different languages. Just because I think it'd be pretty cool just to listen. Because if you already played it once in the English version, I feel like being able to play in a different language would be pretty cool as well. Because you already know the story, you know the dialogue, you know what's gonna happen, and you know with most of us Final Fantasy, we've played it like 10, 20 times plus. You know, it would definitely be cool to listen to in like a different language. Like imagine if that was like in Spanish or something, or Japanese. I'd want to play it in Japanese. I don't know if the options there. I never actually like tried to look, but if the options there, I might actually give it a shot. Imagine streaming a game in like a different language. Like most of us will already know the game, but like still, that'd be pretty cool to be able to pull off. Final Fantasy X, Dynasty Warriors 3, and I think a Ratchet & Clank was on a demo game disc on maybe a PlayStation magazine that offered gameplay that allowed me to play. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Demo discs, definitely a good way to discover games. Like I know nowadays, like they'll still come out with demos obviously, but like now they'll offer it separately, so like they don't make it as like a promotion on top of another game. Although I think it'd be pretty cool if they actually still do that, especially on a game like that's super hype. Like imagine if like a demo disc for a game came out when Elden Ring came out. But obviously it all depends on the company, right? Because that sounds like something that you'd have to probably collab. If not, then it would be made in the same company, of course. It is a marketing strategy back in the day before like the internet got a lot bigger. And I was 12, my dad and I were Christmas shopping at Best Buy, and my dad was asking an employee about the PlayStation 2. It was obviously trying to sell it to him and suggested Final Fantasy X is a game I might like. Very smart. First of all, hope that employee got a raise, because that's a smart employee. You always want to make sure you recommend the best games to your customers. I was 7 when I first discovered Final Fantasy X, so I was still like really young, and my pea brain wasn't really good at strategizing the turn orders at the time. So I did remember being stuck at Sinspawn Gi because I didn't really bother to try and upgrade my characters via the sphere grid. I didn't know that was the leveling system at the time. I started with a game with a very complex leveling system. A lot of RPG games, you'll notice that, you know, you just level up as you fight, gain experience. You know, with Final Fantasy X, not only did you level up, but also you had to allocate them to actually improve your stats. You can't just passively gain stats while you fight. So, you know, the fact that that was the first RPG game that I've exposed myself to, I already exposed myself to a more complicated system of leveling up as opposed to like, or more complex system of progression as opposed to like other games where you just level up and like you just kind of gain the stats organically, which is kind of crazy. So, and I think that's what made me really appreciate being able to nitpick the details into what makes games like really good and what makes games not so good. I knew it was coming but wasn't into gaming at the time. Bought a PS2, game, and TV with my tax refund money in 2003. Even had to take a van taxi to pick up the TV from Walmart because it wouldn't fit in my car. That was a fun 1 month off from work. Oh, this is one of the few that I haven't... Okay, so here's the thing. I tried to respond to most comments, as you can see, like while I was like, as I scroll or like look around, I tend to respond to most of them, but I don't always respond to all of them. So because like again, there were so many comments, it's like, you know, I spent like some time commenting to like what was available, but then, you know, as more started coming in and I just kind of forgot to comment. And I knew I was going to, because I was going to make this into a video series, which by the way, I'm not going to go through every single comment, as you guys can tell. So if you guys want to check out the rest of the posts and look at what other stories are there, then I'll leave a link in the description below. You guys can go check it out. And of course, if you guys want to start making Reddit posts, these kinds of videos a thing, then definitely follow me on Reddit. And I don't know if I can make a community. If like you guys know if that's possible, let me know in the comments as well. I think that'd be pretty cool if we can start implementing Reddit into like some of these video series. It's crazy how you'd use your tax refund money to buy not just a PS2, but the TV and the game. Again, that like I would say that's like a commitment level of like 10 out of 10. I will like, what's more committed, this or getting the game before getting the console to even play it? So, you know, I think they're both pretty up there for me. Maybe I'll do like a tier ranking for like crazy stories of how, you know, people discover this game. Friend bought it at launch. Finally bought it for myself at a thrift shop for $8. Currently my first playthrough. Incredible game and best played on. Oh, wait a second. This is the first playthrough? Currently my first playthrough. In fact, 23 days ago was the first time. But first of all, getting it for $8, that's a steal. Like, dang, I would have paid. Okay, to be fair, I didn't buy the game originally. Like, I borrowed off my cousin, then I obviously bought the remaster like myself, but I would have happily paid like $50 at the time of release to get this game, considering how good it is. But yeah, that's actually quite nuts. But that's also the part of the reason why I enjoy thrifting. Sometimes you can get a lot of hidden gems, which is pretty nuts actually. And this is like the very bottom of the comment section, so I'll probably end it with the very last comment. But once I said, if you guys want to check out the whole post and read some of the comments yourselves, the ones that I didn't go through, then, you know, feel free to check out the Reddit post in the description below. I watched a Minecraft YouTuber who used the music from 10, went out to find where the music was from and found that it was from 10. Decided to watch a playthrough of the game, loved it, and so much I bought it and played for myself. So here's the thing, right? I have debated on whether or not to use music from other games. Like, for example, if I use music from like Skyrim to make lore videos for Final Fantasy X, I would consider that not disrespectful, but it's like I kind of want to keep the integrity of the game that I'm covering when I'm making lore videos on. I would try to stick to Final Fantasy X soundtrack for playing Final Fantasy X. But I can also see how Final Fantasy X music would work from Minecraft. Like, imagine if you're like at the shores of like a beach in Minecraft and like in survival mode or creative, or if you're even trying to build that landscape and you have like the Besaid music playing. I can see that being like a really good pastime in Minecraft. But the fact that you discovered it through music from Minecraft, or from its music while someone was playing a completely different game, is actually pretty nuts. I think those are some pretty cool references to check out. Like, if you're watching like a completely random video and suddenly they play out the music from a game that you know, you're kind of like, oh, I know that. I know where that music's from. I've played that game for sure. I think it's just a cool little Easter egg to like pick out every time you see those. That's gonna do it for this video. Again, I don't really do much videos where it's just me sitting in front of a camera and talking, because I'm not sure if you guys would enjoy it. But if you guys did, please be sure to leave a like on this video so I know you guys want to see more. This is gonna be released on a Thursday, so there'll be 3 days, or 3 days after that will be when I will be streaming, or yeah, it'll be when I stream Final Fantasy 12. So be sure to follow me on Twitch if you guys want to come hang out. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see more videos as well. The shorts and the TikToks are definitely still coming out, so be sure to keep an eye on those. And my community tab will be updates for everything that's happening in the channel. Right now, I've hit a little bit of a slump just because my midterm season just ended and now I'm finally starting to get back into things. And of course, Sunday's lore video will still be up at the usual time. So, other than that, this is Enzo signing out, and I will see you all in the next one.